Okay. All right, we are live on Facebook and YouTube. I don't think that Instagram is working. Oh, it is. Oh, it's working. I think it's working. Let's see. Oh, there's a weird double delay. That's going to be very strange. Okay, let's just see how we get on. So, hello, everyone. Welcome to my live chat. This is the first time I've streamed live on Instagram. If you're watching on Instagram, drop me a comment and I can see if it's working, but I'm very excited. So I can see that people are joining us on Facebook. Hello. If you're joining me live, drop us a quick comment and give this a share. That will be lush. Hi, Kath. Thank you for saying hello. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Heidi Maver. I'm the founder of Your Task Matters. I'm the author of Sunday Times best-selling book, Your Child Is Not Broken. And as part of my work, I have been mentoring a number of people to write their own books. And this is the first time I've had one of those authors on to talk about their book, and I'm super excited. So I'm joined tonight by the glorious Jo Gaunt. Jo and I live not too far from each other, although we have only been in the same room once.
Twice.
That's right, twice. But Jo is a parent professional who is a parent in a neurodivergent home. And the work that Jo has done historically is supporting parents and carers in neurodivergent homes to support their autistic children. And Jo's book is about that. I'm not going to spoil it too much because I'm going to let Jo talk to you about it. But yeah, so tonight we're going to talk a little bit about Jo's book. You find out a little bit more about Jo's story and how to get Jo's book and why you might want to get Jo's book and how to get Jo's free stuff and all about how magnificent Jo is. So hello to you, my lovely girl. How are you?
Hi, Heidi. Thank you. I'm good.
Looking
forward to speaking to everybody tonight.
It's exciting. So I'm getting my notes up. Let's just start with the basics. Can you do an introduction? Can you tell people a little bit about you, your background, how you ended up here today? Just like, your personal journey, I guess.
Yeah, so I'm based over in Bradford, not very far from yourself, like you said. I'm a parent professional, although I'm more now parent than I am professional. I stopped working a couple of years ago to be able to further support my children as they've travelled through the school systems and felt kind of everything that happens with the school systems. I've 20 years experience working alongside autistic young people, either in their homes, with their families, in the NHS, or mainly in mainstream schools and specialist nurseries. A lot of the time within that work, I would be a lead practitioner, ensuring that the practice of everybody else, teachers, anybody in the school, fitted the needs of the neurodivergent children that we were supporting. And I would work directly with the children on their emotional regulation, understanding the nervous system and neurodivergence so that they could work within building themselves and understanding themselves. So that's the professional Jo. But as a parent, I've spent the last 10 years identifying that we are all, so I'm part of a family of 5, and we are all neurodivergent. We have a mixture of diagnosis of autistic, attention hyperactive, pathological demand avoidant, dyslexia, sensory processing. We're kind of everything mixed in there between all 5 of us. And over the last 10 years, not only have we identified and confirmed that that is who we are and the way that we work, but we've also established ways of being able to meet all of our needs within the home. We're very, very different. Opposites attract. You couldn't get any further between me and my partner in the way that we do things. The children are like chalk and cheese. So I've got 3 girls. They're 21, 13 and 11 now. And they are so different between them. So trying to meet everybody's needs together under one roof has at times in the past felt like an impossible kind of task. But using the strategies and the way that we've developed to live, we all now thrive together.
Yeah, And that's something we hear a lot in our communities, right? People are talking about, one of the things that parents ask me a lot, probably more than anything else, is what do you do if your sensory triggers are kind of like triggered by the things that other people in your household do? What do you do if your boundary is someone else's trigger and someone else's boundary is your trigger? How do you manage that? How do you manage all those different sensory systems and all those different individual spiky profiles in a house? So, and that is what your book is about, basically, right? That's where you've come from. So why write this book, and why now? Like, what drove you to do that?
The core reason goes back to loneliness. Even with all of my knowledge and experience as a professionally, as a parent, especially at the start of my journey, I was so lonely. There wasn't anybody I could find that could guide me and help me to understand that the professionals were gaslighting me, and no one to empower me that what I was doing was the right thing for my children. So quite often I'd get views from the professionals as that because I was a professional, I should know what I'm doing. Or I'd have the view of, and this was said to me by a professional, you're looking for it because you work with it. So I never got the kind of, here's the support that you need. Yes, we understand that you're struggling. And in the first few years, it was just loneliness. There was nobody to guide me. And that drove me to set up a community for parents of neurodivergent children. So we've been running 3 or 4 years now. It's called Breathe. And we meet in Bradford one Friday every month. And it is just a chance to get together with other parents who understand, who get it. And we talk about the highs and the lows, and we just breathe together. And there is so many parents that have felt the impact of having that tribe, of having those people who understand, and they get my professional knowledge as well when they come. And the impact and just seeing the magic of everybody sharing this and the connections is what's driven me to write the book, because I don't want anyone else to feel that loneliness that I felt. I want people to know that it's okay to do life differently. Not only is it okay to do it differently, there is a tribe out there waiting to support you, to guide you, and to have your back.
Yeah, so important. That I wrote about this in my book. I wrote about how I believe that community is the antidote to loneliness, and that it is so vital that you have other adults around you who share some of your experiences.
Yeah.
Because not only do you feel lonely if you don't have that, but also you spend a lot of time explaining stuff to people who are never going to understand, ever. Yeah. Even with all the will in the world, parenting in a neurodivergent home is something you can have no real understanding of until you have found other people who are experiencing that too.
Yeah.
And we can talk about it till we're blue in the face, but there's a shared terms of reference, a shared language, a shared emotional experience for those of us who are parents in neurodivergent households, right? We know that.
Definitely. And that's the impact of Breathe. Like, no matter what you turn up and put at that table at Breathe, there will be somebody who is nodding along saying, yeah, that is what we've done. Like, that is where we've had this issue. This is what we tried. And the amount of support that gets shared around is just magical to see. It really is.
So obviously you were doing that in Bradford, and like Kath says, I'm not sure where we would find that locally, and that's the issue, right? So that's kind of, I think, when we've spoken before, that's where the book came from, that you realised that there were learnings coming out of your group in Bradford that needed to be more than just available to people who were half an hour away from you or less, right?
That's it. And to get this kind of support just consistently out there so that people don't feel alone, if they haven't got this kind of support locally, that they can still know that there is a guiding hand there just to support them. And it's not a book that's a tale of kind of our story. It is a book filled with practical advice and knowledge of how to go and find that tribe, how to get that support, and how to support your family as well.
Yeah. I've been fortunate enough to have an advanced copy of the book. And what I like about it is And my book is a bit of just a bit of a whinge fest, right? So like my book is intended for parents and carers in like a, you're not alone, this sucks, doesn't it? And a few things that I've learned along the way and that I hope that you will learn by my story. But yours is a more kind of like practical step-by-step guide to, let's look at where you are now, let's look at what's going on for you, and let's look at some of the strategies that you can use in your home that are neurodivergent affirming, that are going to support your family. So for people who are having those sort of like, yeah, I don't even know where we begin, that's what this book is for, right?
Yeah, it's the manual that everybody needs. And whether you're at the start of your journey, and you don't need to have your child's identity confirmed, like if you're at the beginning and you're just getting onto pathways and onto waiting lists, this book is the support for you at that point. If your child's got their, if they've been confirmed as being autistic, this book is to help you if you still struggle within the home, if you feel like routines just need tightening up, if you're not quite sure how to support them when they're in crisis. And if you feel that you nail it and absolutely everything is great in your home, then still read the book, because it will empower you to know that, yes,
you're like, yeah, I've got this down.
Right, yeah.
I must be doing it right, because Joe's describing exactly. I mean, let's be honest, none of us feel that way, right? That even parents who aren't in neurodivergent households don't feel that way.
We get to that point, and that's the point of the book. You can get to that point of where, and it's not a consistent, it's not all the time. I'm not saying I am parent perfection. I am not. I still have times where my children are in crisis and they're in overwhelm, and I'm just like, why are we here again? And then I thrive, and I literally use my approach, and we go through Thrive, and very quickly we are out of those overwhelm and crisis moments.
Yeah. When we were chatting just before we came on the live, I know you've just been on holiday, and I was like, how was that? And you were like, oh, it took us a few days to get settled. But hearing you talk about your holiday, like versus how I hear myself and other neurodivergent families talk about their holidays, like even you just saying, yeah, we rent a house so we can just basically move our stuff and we take everything and we drop it into a house there, and I was like, that makes
sense. So the only thing that changes is the environment. Our structure, our routines, how we support our children, everything goes with us. And it's with that mindset of the only thing that changes when we go on holiday is the environments.
Physical environment,
because we're that consistent and predictable for the children, there is that transitional phase of the first few days. But then by the 6th day, we were swimming with sea lions, we were going around the safari and in the water parks, and we just had an amazing time.
So good. That's what we want for your readers, right? So we've talked a little bit about who the book is for. What do you want it to do for people? What do you intend the book to do? Like if I was going to say to someone, you want to read this book and this is what it will do for you, what's that?
Empower them to do life differently. Like this, the amount of times that we get that pressure that we need to be doing things, that we should be doing things, and we put that pressure on ourselves as well. Like, societal expectations, generational expectations of what we should be doing. And this is a huge part of like the beginning of the book as well. We need to start doing things differently. Our children need things doing differently. And I want the book to empower people to know that that's okay. But it's full of practical advice. I'm not just saying, go and do this. I get it. I am one of you. It is full of genuine empathy and practical advice. It is a manual that's full of support and understanding to help people create changes in their home that are sustainable and effective for the benefit of their family.
Yeah. Some comments off Instagram that you can't see. Someone saying, this is so needed. When my daughter got her autism and ADHD diagnosis, we were given some bits of paper and sent off on our merry way. Right? And Layla's saying, this is my issue. Our home is our safe space. But we struggle to explain to people how they can support us. And Nat is saying it's about finding your own norm. Yes. So let's talk about, there's a couple of acronyms in your book. One of them is Thrive, and we've got a resource that I'm going to signpost people to that's on your website. There's like a free downloadable resource that people can use that will help them get around your Thrive approach. But let's talk about whys, because this is kind of like what underpins the first half of the book. Can you explain the whys philosophy and what that looks like and why that exists and what it means?
Yeah, so the full approach is be wise and thrive, because they kind of work in hand with each other.
Yeah.
So it's a how and why parenting approach. Wise is the why, and it helps you to identify the why to everything, because without understanding the why, we can't make the changes that are needed. And we need to understand when we're in crisis, moments of crisis, or when we're overwhelmed or routines have changed, why they no longer seem to be working. So why stands for the when, and that's kind of the first thing we need to know is, when did this change? Did it change when co-parent wasn't at home like they usually are? Did it change when you had to get a different style of nuggets? You know, when is a big factor in the why. Then we look at the individual. Is it the individual's need? Is it the individual's abilities? Have their skills changed? Do they need more or less support? And then we look at the sequence of events. Now, sequence of events is explained more in the book, but it's to do with your structure and your routines. Within everything that you do as structure and routines, there is a set sequence of events that your child will be used to. Have those sequence of events changed, or do they need to change? And then we look at the all-important environment. And by looking at these 4 elements of whys, you can 99% of the time identify the why. And once you know the why, you can then make the changes that are needed.
And this is the issue, isn't it? When we come across sort of like less neurodivergent affirming approaches to, for example, meltdowns. I know that your resource is about helping to calm your children through meltdowns, specifically using your Thrive approach, is that there's a lot of the whole, this is how we'll approach it, this is the strategy we'll apply, without understanding where that's coming from, and without kind of realizing that the reason that our children or young people, and actually us as neurodivergent adults, slip into dysregulation is because of these factors. Something happens at a particular time, there's a sequence of events that follows, there's something going on in the environment, most of those things play into those moments of dysregulation. And so if you can identify those patterns, this is what I got from your book, if you can identify those patterns and start to understand where those regular pinch points are hitting, you can start making those adjustments in your own home, and then start to bring more cohesion to your approach at home. And that gives everyone stability, predictability, kind of what's the other word, begins with a C, consistency. And that's what we all need. All humans need that, but particularly neurodivergent humans need that, right?
And the thing is, with the Be Wise and Thrive approach, although I deliver it in the book as a way of setting up a safe space, because we talk about the cornerstones within the book as well, Be Wise and Thrive goes anywhere with you. Like when we were coming back from the holiday, we were delayed in the airport for 4 hours. And it really was a case of like, right, let's thrive. We need to do this with our children to get through that 4 hours of unexpected delay. But at the same time, when they did start becoming overwhelmed, it was like, right, let's be wise. What's changed? When did this little bit of overwhelm start? Is it the individual? Was it the sequence of events that it wasn't happening in a way that we'd explained it to? Had the environment changed? In Spain was playing at the time that we were stuck in the airport. So every time somebody cheered, that was a big change in the environment that we had to be prepared for.
Yeah, God. And these are the things that once you've got these in your kind of like toolkit, you can start unpicking those more regular events and those more regular happenings for your children and young people that you're sharing a home with.
And the Thrive then just gives the how to support. So it's not
Do you
just
want to quickly dig into that? Because I know that you have got a resource on that, but just give me the top line on Thrive, because the Wise and Thrive go hand in hand, right?
Yeah, so Thrive is giving time, honouring needs, restoring the balance, being innovative, validating experiences, and adapting the environment. And if you follow that Thrive approach when your child is regulated, you will keep providing that consistency and predictability to them, and then they will know that you've got their back when they're overwhelmed and when they're in crisis. And you again follow that Thrive approach, they will know how that support is going to come to them.
Yeah. One of the things that I found really interesting when I was reading the book was, because I know that you live with a PDA, a young person who has pathological demand avoidance, 2 PDAs, and I live with a PDA and I have a very demand avoidant profile. So, I mean, who knows? But certainly we're PDA as in this house.
Yeah.
And so I found when I was reading the book, I had to really fight that whole, because and I loved it, but the book is very gentle and it wasn't like telling me what to do and being all bossy. It was very kind of like, it was nice and gentle and relatable. But when you started talking about routines, I was like, ugh. And then I was like, because I have an autistic ADHD profile, right? So I am constantly, those 2 sides of my profile are rubbing up against each other all the time. So I do crave routine and consistency because of being autistic, but I also need novelty and variability because of being ADHD. And so I'm constantly, but what I have found and what I found came through in your book was we all have routines, whether we intend to have them or not.
Yeah.
So you may as well pick ones that are going to work for you.
Yeah. And that's
the message, right?
What I've tried to get across is that we all have structure and we all have routines, but it's making it work for you. Like you say, you've kind of got that internal battle of the ADHD doesn't want routines, whereas the autistic side does. So I'm the ADHD within the house, and I have routines, but my routines are small mini routines. So I don't have a set time that I'll go and do my teeth and things. I'll do it in whatever order my ADHD wants to do it in that morning. But the actual small sequence of events within that will be the same. Whereas the PDA is in the house, it's about finding a routine that works for them so that they still do those tasks, but it doesn't come across as a demand. And then for the people that are autistic without the PDA profile, they need a lot more structured routines. So it's about making sure that they follow that same sequence all of the time. And the way that I've tried to write the book is that as you read it and you connect with elements of the book, you will be able to develop those strategies within your own head that will work for your family. Because there's no one box fits all. And it's about thinking outside that box. But what I want to do is show you tools that you can use, strategies that you can use, and then you just adapt and tweak them so that they work for you.
100%. It reminded me when I was reading it, and I mean this in a really complimentary way, it reminded me of some of the reading that I did when I was a new parent and I was sleep deprived and I was desperate for someone to just tell me that I was all right, that, as long as I held the baby the right way up, I was doing great. And and maybe share with me some, maybe you could try this. And there were 2 books that were doing the rounds when Theo was brand new. One of them was the Gina Ford kind of like get your baby in a routine book that did not work for me. And the other one was a book called Contented Little Baby, which was a much more fluid feel, but did give you kind of like a path to deviate from, if you like. And that really worked for me, like a bit of a, and I remember still she had this easy routine. So it was eat, activity, sleep, you. And she said, when your baby's asleep, that's not the time for you to be like running around trying to do all the hoovering. When your baby's asleep, first of all, do you need to sleep? If you do, you sleep too. And if not, it's you time. And that easy EASY has stuck with me right through him being a toddler. And I think that's probably what got us through. And when you are overwhelmed and sleep deprived, having that really quick acronym that you can be like, right, okay, WISE, what's that? Do you know what I mean? Like just to, if you get into the habit of applying that every time you're like in a state of chaos, it becomes something that you do without having to think so hard. And anything that does that for parents, I think, is really helpful. And that's what it reminded me of when I was reading it. It was like, this gives me the comfort that baby book gave me. So, I felt like, oh yeah, this is going to help a lot of people. There's a comment here. It says, for my youngest, any variation in the sequence of events sends him into complete dysregulation. Mind you, there are certain things completely out of my control. For instance, a for sale sign on a house on the way to school that has been there for 6 months and now it isn't. But knowing that, like knowing to even notice that, knowing what the impact that would have, that's part of your approach, right? It's about being really in tune with what's changing for your young person and how might that impact them.
And the environment is one of the biggest factors that does impact our children. And that's why it's within the whys, because we need to look at the environment that was there. We need to look at what impact the environment had on our children. But then it's also a part of thrive, because adapting the environment is such a big part of putting that support in place, kind of in a proactive approach rather than a reactive approach.
Yeah. 100%. And even just like knowing that for your child, that for sale sign coming down has had an impact, then being able to articulate that with them and for them, so that then they know, like we're modeling to them, right, how they then can then assess their own environments. And we're breaking those cycles of however many generations of parenting that we've all been a part of, where it's just been absolute freaking chaos. And like just a bit of an antidote to that chaos. So I would love it if you would, we're going to tell people where to get your book, but I also asked you before we came on for a top tip for parents, because I know that there are parents who are going to want to buy this book, read this book, can't wait for this book. It's not out for a little while, probably a month. I think we're out from
about 4 weeks.
Yeah. So in the meantime, something that you can share with parents now about creating a safe space for autistic kids.
Top tip would be to consider time in everything that you do. And not time as in, what time is it? It's 7:10, it's 7:30. But have you given your child time to process? Have you given your child time to adjust? Have you allowed time for your child to transition between the different rooms, to transition between the different activities that you're doing? Are you giving your time freely, undisrupted during moments of crisis and overwhelm? And I think either way, your child is going to have your time. They're either going to have your time in moments of chaos or moments of calm. Yes. But if we consider time in all that we do, we can decrease the moments of chaos and increase the moments of calm together. Yeah. So I think my top tip for in the month while people are waiting for my book to hit Amazon, it would be to consider time in everything that you do.
Mm-hmm. And how often do we catch ourselves, like usually after the meltdown has happened, either from us or our kids or both, when we look back and we think, oh, I really rushed that.
Yeah. Even like routines often get rushed because we look at the time and we think, oh, we're 10 minutes behind. Mm-hmm. But routines aren't time bound. If you normally start a routine at 7 o'clock and it starts at 10 past, you don't have to get it finished by 8 o'clock. Just let the child do the sequence of events and it will stay so much calmer. Then they will feel that rush from you. They will feel that time bound. But if you just give them the time to go through that sequence of events, you might be 3 minutes later rather than the 10 minutes that you're panicking about.
Yeah, God, 100%. And, you know, all of the stuff that's in your book, like there's a whole section in there about transitions and the importance of allowing time for those transitions. And when we say transitions, we mean not just big stuff, like not just the big things that we talk about when we talk about like changing schools. We also mean like moving from one activity to another, finishing your dinner and moving into the living room or whatever it might be, or
out of your bedroom to come downstairs for breakfast, like all the coming off of the iPad, everything that moves you from one physical state to another or one mental state to another is a transition that needs to be given time for.
Yeah, God, so true. So your book is out on the 13th of August. People are asking if they can pre-order it. We're not doing pre-orders. And the reason we're not doing
no pre-orders.
Am I right? Yeah. The reason we're not doing pre-orders is because Joe is following a similar launch plan to what I did with Your Child Is Not Broken. If Joe doesn't put pre-orders on, then on the day Joe's book comes out and you all go and buy it, it will hit Amazon bestseller lists. That's the intention. Not if, when. I know that you're all going to go and buy it because more than anything else, I know you guys need this book, but also we support other families and other parents in our community. And when someone writes a book, we get behind them and we make sure that it hits the Amazon top seller list. So it is not available to pre-order. It's out on the 13th of August. If you go to Joe's website, Joe does have a free resource that you can download which talks you through. Well, talk to me about the resource. What exactly is it?
So the resource is called Chaos to Calm, and it introduces the Thrive approach. So the resource is aimed at those moments of crisis when your child is in a meltdown, because although Thrive stays the same and the elements of what we deliver stays the same, how you support your child during those moments changes. So the resource is aimed at those moments of chaos, at those moments of crisis when your child is in meltdown, and it gives you different strategies to use for giving time, honouring their needs, restoring the balance, being innovative, validating their experiences and changing the environment. And if you go on there, pop your email address in, you'll get the resource, but then you'll also be on my mailing list and be one of the first people to get the link when the book goes live.
Amazing. I'm very excited. I think it's going to help so many people. It's going to change lives. And I like that, like your resource now is kind of like a little bit of people warming themselves up and getting to know you a little bit and getting to know how your approach works, so that when the book is out, they can just get straight in there. And it's coming out in the middle of summer holidays, so you hopefully, fingers crossed, have a little bit of time to read it. Who knows? We all know that in some households it doesn't make any difference what time of the year it is. But I have read it and I think it's a great read, and I am really pleased that it is going to exist already, but I'm really pleased it's going to exist to more people than just the very few fortunate of us have already had a copy of it. People asking about pre-orders, we've already covered that. Maddie's saying hello. Someone saying, my middle son in particular fully feeds off my emotions. He reads me better than sometimes I read myself. Right? My God. 100%. So I can see, I'm so glad that this worked on Instagram. It did. We've had people watching on Instagram. You can't see it in the numbers, but we've also had people watching here on Facebook, and it's on YouTube. A reminder again, for anyone who doesn't know and doesn't remember where it is, go and find Jo on her website, jogaunt.com. Her Thrive resource is there. You can sign up for a mailing list. You can find a little bit more about Jo's work. If you're local to Bradford, I think you can find out about the Breathe group as well. Is that right?
That's all on the website. There's a page on there, and if you scroll right down to the bottom, it tells you the dates for the next year that we're going to meet at Breathe, and information of where we do that. I'd
love to come over and see them. When I'm better, I'll get myself over.
Yes, that'd be fabulous.
So watch this space. And on the 13th of August, when the book goes live, I expect you all to be ordering it, telling me you've ordered it, tagging Jo in it, tagging me in it, letting us know that you've bought it, because Jo is the first of 10 authors that I've been working with for the last year. And I'm super excited that this book is about to hit the world. It's going to make a difference. I'm really excited. So I'm going to end the stream. Thank you everyone for joining us live tonight. Jo, stay on with me.
Thank you everyone.
Get yourself over to Jo's website, get signed up for her mailing list, and go and get a copy of that book on the 13th of August. I'll remind you again, the book is called, Jo, I'll let you do this.
The book is called Your Safe Space, Creating a Home Where Autistic Children Thrive.
And it's out on the 13th of August. Right, my loves, we will see you all soon. Thanks for joining us. Take care, everyone. Bye.